Hello, everyone, and welcome to Super Podcast Action Committee, episode 133. We may not be as high in numbers as Kevin Cassidy over at Go Nintendo, who will have his 500th episode soon, but
It's easy to do when you're working making podcasts longer than we were. It's like, what have we been at? Like almost a little over 2 years now making podcasts.
Almost 3, I think. He started long before us, but what's kind of amazing is he's never missed a week, and he has been on every single episode. Now, they've had to shift the podcast day from like Saturday to Friday a couple times to work around schedules, but that's pretty amazing. 500
That is pretty amazing.
Podcasts.
Shoot, I think I've missed probably 10 podcasts out of our entire 133. I don't know, something like that. I don't know. I've missed quite a few. I've missed more than Andrew has.
I don't know if I've missed one or not. We had one that was cobbled together from individual recordings because I was in Kentucky. Usually when I go on vacation, we just skip a week. But anyway, Andrew Eisen here. I don't know why I plugged Go Nintendo's podcast, but Kevin's awesome. And
go watch it. It's fun.
He always promotes my stuff, so there you go, Kevin. And with me, of course, is Zachary Knight. Hello, Zachary.
Hello, everybody.
So,
how's
is the
your
dress
week been?
blue and black, or is it white and gold?
Okay, I've had a number of discussions about this, and I actually got in one somewhat heated argument on Facebook about this. But I opened the original picture, the one that's posted on Tumblr. I opened that up in GIMP, and I sampled multiple spots on this thing, and everything that everybody's saying is blue and white comes out as baby blue, and around that spectrum, and everything that's everybody's arguing about is being gold or black comes out in the gold-brown spectrum. So the dress is blue and gold in that picture. Now, the one of the heated argument I had on Facebook about it, the guy I was arguing with kept bringing up the original dress, the real dress, and was posting photos of the dress in proper lighting with photographed with proper cameras and stuff. And yes, it is definitely, without a doubt, navy blue or royal blue and black. But the picture that was posted, because it was posted in crappy lighting with a crappy camera, comes out as baby blue and gold, almost a white. But yeah.
Yeah, I think some people are misunderstanding what color is the dress to what color is the dress in this picture. What color is this spot of this particular JPEG? I had not heard of this until my sister emailed me about it. And she says, she actually emailed the entire family. She says, oh my God, the dress, oh, people are freaking. And I'm like, what dress? Is this an Oscars thing? Because I didn't watch the Oscars. I don't care. And she sent me a link to what she was talking about. And I looked at it, and what I saw was, and of course I have to be different, but when I looked at the picture, what my eyes told me the colors were a very washed out blue and kind of a muddy brown. That's what my eyes saw in that picture. But yes, it's a
Matthew. It's nobody really should care. It's one of those things. But what's really funny is at the same time as this whole dress thing was going around, there was this llama chase where like 2 llamas escaped from a zoo or a farm.
That was in Arizona, wasn't it?
Yeah, and so there was like helicopters, news helicopters following this along like it was a high-speed car chase, and so everybody was talking about these llamas, and so a lot of people combined the two memes. I saw this one where the white llama says, the dress is white and gold, and the black llama says, I want a divorce. And then somebody else painted blue stripes on the black llama and gold stripes on the white llama. So, fun stuff.
I saw, I don't know if it was a mock-up, I didn't look into it, but PlayStation's European account, this was either faked or PlayStation actually did this. They introduced a white and gold PS Vita, and they said, "Look at our new black and blue PS Vita," or something like that. And I
Nice.
don't know if that was actually from PlayStation's account or
Yeah.
not. That was
Well, there was another thing was Adobe. They got in on it, and they put a picture of it up with like circles on various spots, highlighting what color those spots were, and yes, baby blue and gold, brown is what they came up with, exactly what I came up with, and so I thought that was pretty funny, but yeah, but there is a trick to it. Like there is a certain certain people, as the science is explained, certain people do actually see it as blue and black.
Oh yeah, it's a wonderful
So
optical trick, and
yeah,
talking about why different brains will perceive the same image in a different way, I think is absolutely fascinating.
yeah,
What gets me though is why people get so damn upset about it. I mean, you see people coming to virtual blows on Twitter and Facebook over what color this stupid picture is. It's like, guys, wow. Do you get upset at people that can't see 3D stereoscopic 3D? Do you get upset at
yeah.
people who
I punch people who can't see those magic pictures.
yeah, I
I,
have a
I
stigmatism. I
punch
can't
people in
see
the face
those.
when they can't get those. It's
It's
that's
a
how
boat,
bad it is.
goddammit! Don't you see the boat? What's wrong with you? Look, it's just a bunch of squiggles.
Yeah.
So,
All right.
well, I've been playing Kirby and the Rainbow Curse all week, and I quite like it. I think it's a lot of fun. I'm still bummed out that I have to stare at the gamepad to play it, but
Mm-hmm.
the gamepad screen, while certainly not as good as a 60-inch HD TV, is not. It's fine. I mean, it doesn't look ugly. In fact, the game doesn't do anti-aliasing that well, so in some ways it looks a little less jaggy on the gamepad because of the
Color
lower
gate.
resolution color gauge. So, yeah, Twisted Ideas in our comment section is hashtag ColorGate. So, um, and I just lost my train of thought. Oh, Kirby. So a very fun game. It's cute. It's charming. It's a lot of fun. It's a very easy play. I don't think you'll actually need my guide for it, but if you're missing a treasure chest and you can't find it, it's there for you. Check it out on IGN. Work in progress, though. Only about 70%. And I didn't work on it today because I got home from lunch and I was like, I need a nap. But I'll try to get through level 6 tonight and then level 7 tomorrow and then spend the rest of the week on the rest of the challenges. So, I think Nintendo would have been well served to. Maybe it did, but I think this game could benefit from some alternate control schemes.
Yeah.
For example, you need to tap on Kirby to dash, and to engage his special attack, his super dash, you tap and hold on him. What happens a lot is you'll try to draw a line under him, kind of scoop under him to pick him up and get him moving, and you'll accidentally click on him and make him dash or star dash. And
Mm-hmm.
quick tip, you can pause the game to cancel out of that. And I
Nice.
thought, what if you could activate the dash by clicking the shoulder buttons? I think that
Yeah.
might help. I also thought the game could probably control just fine with the Wii Remote pointer. Might be a little more difficult because it's more difficult to
It's not as
freehand.
precise as
Yeah.
touching the screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I also think if you did something like just constantly hold the stylus down on the gamepad, it would just put up a cursor on the screen of where your finger or stylus is touching, and that way you could just move along the gamepad and then just hit the trigger button to spread rainbow juice, rainbow ropes is what they're
Yeah.
called. That might work. It might be a little cumbersome. I don't know if anyone would want to play it that way. Maybe those are options that Nintendo did explore, but I am kind of surprised that there's no other way to play this game, because it does seem kind of weird that the game forces you to. You may as well turn other than sound, I suppose. You may as well turn the TV off because you never look at it. So,
Okay.
but still, other than 4-1, which I hated, Great game. 4-1 is an auto scroller, and I hate auto
Oh,
scrolling levels.
auto-scrolling
I am
levels.
an impatient gamer. I want to go at my pace, which is funny because I do like stealth games.
Hmm.
Like Splinter Cell or Metal Gear Solid or stealth games. I do enjoy those very slow, methodically paced games, but I hate auto scrollers because fast or slow, I want to go at my pace, you know. And when the screen is just slowly scrolling, I'm like, ah. Especially if there's a secret like 2 minutes into the level that I missed the first time, and I have to kill myself and restart the stage and wait for the damn thing to scroll all the way back there. It's like, ah, so torturous. I hate that.
Yeah.
Anyway, what have you been playing this week?
Okay. Well, this week I had a baby. Well, my wife had a baby. Um, so, she had him early Monday. So we've been back and forth from the hospital and everything. So I decided to play around with some games. Download some games from the iTunes. Play on my phone, and just to one of them was just to see what everybody was talking about, and the other one was just because I thought it was interesting and it looked like, and it was related to something a developer in Oklahoma was doing. But the first one I downloaded was Puzzles and Dragons. Everybody's talking about
Ah,
Puzzles and Dragons,
yes.
and they're doing a Mario themed Puzzle and Dragons. And then what was the other theme that was announced this week? I'm trying to
Uh,
remember.
Nintendo's releasing Puzzles and Dragons Z / Puzzles and Dragons Mario Edition on the
Yeah.
same card. So
Okay, because yeah, there's the Mario edition, but I thought there was another themed one. I can't remember what it was, but yeah. So I downloaded this and I absolutely hated the game. It
mechanically, or
well, mechanically the game is fine. Like I would play this game if I could, but the game is one of those Facebook styled games where it's like it drags out the gameplay, and makes it really difficult to progress at a reasonable pace without spending money on the in-app purchases. So it's got the stamina.
it's a free
Yeah.
to play game.
Yeah, so it's got the stamina where you can only do certain number of levels with until your stamina recharges, and well, thank you, real next gen Vixen, and yes, we are crazy, Matthew, but but it's got the stamina, which really drives me nuts. But then you have to pay money to kind of combine your monsters in order to level up certain monsters and then evolve them and everything. But you don't get enough money. You have to replay levels to get the money you need to level up and evolve your monsters, and you're hitting that stamina barrier. And so I got to a point where I could only play for like 15 minutes and maybe combine a couple of monsters, and then I'd have to wait an hour to play again in order to do the exact same thing. And so once I reached that point, I just uninstalled the game because it was
Yeah,
driving me insane.
sounds like they.
Um,
I haven't heard anyone talk about anything like that in the previews of the 3DS game. So perhaps they've completely because there are no microtransactions in the game for the
yeah.
3DS. So maybe they've completely rebalanced it.
Well, hopefully, if they got rid of that. If they got rid of the stamina mechanic, then yeah, I would play the game. Because it was a fun game. It's a match 3 game, and you don't have to. It's not like Bejeweled where you just flip 2 jewels to match 3. You can actually drag them from anywhere on the board. To set up combos and everything. And so that was fun. I liked playing the game that way. But yeah, the stamina thing killed me. Now, the other game I downloaded looked a lot like a developer in Oklahoma. Trying to remember what their name is, and the name is escaping me at the moment. But they showed me a game they were working on called Tap Barista, where it was basically there was little coffee shop bar in the middle of the woods, and like a little barista standing behind it. And all you do is just tap the screen and make a bar go down. And I think they were going to add more stuff to it, but that was the gist of the game. And you just sat there and tapped the screen and made a bar go down. And I was like, people play this kind of game? And they were like, yeah, there's like a number of games out there like that. And so I downloaded one called Tap Titans, and I'll show you the game right here. I don't know if you can see it.
A little purple flappy thing.
Yeah, there's a little monster there, and all you do is tap the screen to kill the monsters. And the great thing about this game, if you can see, I've got all these little hero guys that are with me, and they basically play the game for me.
So it's cookie clicker.
Yeah, and there's this little icon on the side where a little treasure chest. When you exit out of the game basically plays itself while you're not playing it. And so when you come back to the game, you've got a whole bunch of treasure built up from all your little sidekicks killing monsters for you. I thought this game was hilarious because that's the game, you just sit there and tap, and the game plays itself when you don't want to actually tap the screen. So, very interesting game.
Tap what?
Tap
Barista?
Titans.
Oh, Tap Titans.
Tap Barista is the one that this developer in Oklahoma was making, but Tap Titans is this one that's on my phone.
Okay.
But I thought the game was hilarious, and I've been messing around with it because there's a little trick to this. You can turn off. You can put your phone into airplane mode. Turn off auto set. That you can set it. Change the settings so that you can manually adjust the time, and then you can just flip through the days and go back into the game and get tons and tons of money and just go back and forth doing that and level up in like half an hour. Like what would normally take you like 2 weeks, you could level up in half an hour. So I thought that was a really neat trick. But in more serious gaming, I finally got around to playing more Wild Arms, and got to the point where the three main characters are finally joined on the same party, and I went through the first dungeon that you can play all three of them at, and now I'm in the second stage where I'm having to escape from a castle, and that was driving me nuts because the guards kept capturing me, and it was really tough to get away from them. But the game so far is fun. I've only played it for 2 hours so far, but definitely going to have fun playing that one as time goes on. But that's my week in gaming.
Okay. Twisted Ideas talked about a free-to-play Pokemon game that Nintendo's making, and that would be Pokemon Shuffle, which released within the last week somewhere, which is essentially Candy Crush with Pokemon. Full, complete with microtransactions and things like that. And from the previews I've read, people are kind of split. Because I'm hearing both ends here. I'm like saying Nintendo's doing microtransactions and doing it well, doing it very Nintendo-y. And I've heard people say Nintendo's doing microtransaction and they're completely blowing it. They're making it as bad as can possibly be. So I don't know. I'm actually downloading it now just to check it out. Maybe in a week when I'm not doing the Kirby guide.
Is that a Wii U game or a 3DS game?
3DS.
3DS? Okay. Yeah, I really need to get me a 3DS and Majora's Mask and Ocarina. Yeah, I would love to get all the Zelda games that are on the 3DS. See, we got Majora's Mask, Ocarina of Time, and then what's the other one?
Well, there's A Link Between Worlds.
A Link Between Worlds, yeah. That one, I really. Link to the Past was one of my top favorite Super Nintendo games, and I would love to play Link Between Worlds because it's a direct sequel to that one. But.
Yeah, so before we move on to the poll, Matthew asked us earlier before we started, I think it was Matthew, yeah, what our thoughts are on the Power Rangers fan film, which I didn't watch because it's 15 minutes long and I was at work and didn't have time to watch it. And by the time I could, it was taken down. At least the original
The unedited
version.
version.
The
Yeah.
edited, and I'm one of those pains in the butts who refuses to. Well, if I can't see the unedited version, I don't support censorship. So I didn't watch it. I'm also not a fan of Power Rangers. I have seen some of Power Rangers. I was probably too old for Power Rangers when it was out in the 90s because I was a teenager in the 90s. So
Yeah.
um,
Me too.
but
My little brothers really loved Power Rangers, and I had to suffer through it because it was part of the Saturday morning block, and they always wanted to watch it. But yeah, I watched the edited version. I was going to watch the original version, but I didn't have time because we were in the hospital and things were happening and stuff. And then by the time I actually had 15 minutes to spare to watch it, they had taken down the unedited version, and so I got to watch the edited one, which was still pretty violent and everything. There's all kinds of blood splatter onto the camera, and heads being chopped off and blown off, and people cussing up a storm and stuff. So I don't know exactly what the difference is between the edited version that I watched and the quote not safe for work version, but it was very interesting. I'm only marginally familiar with Power Rangers. Like I said, my little brothers were really into it, and I didn't care at all too much. And then my 5-year-old, last year she went through this phase where she was just super into Power Rangers and was watching every Power Ranger show on Netflix, and now she's into Ninja Turtles, which I approve of better than Power Rangers. But I watched it. I watched that, and I was like, huh, that's a really interesting take on had the original series continued out into their adulthoods and everything. And it was kind of fun. It kind of reminded me a lot of I used to play a game, make believe with my little brothers, and we played this version of Power Rangers Future where like Rita had made 3 like truly invincible monsters, and we were them, and we had killed the Power Rangers and then killed Rita and Lord Zed and took over the world, and that was a lot of fun. So that was kind of my fantasy of Power Rangers there, and so seeing as that's my opinion of Power Rangers, I really enjoyed it. Watching watching the whole thing, and of course Tommy was the Green Ranger / White Ranger was the hero of the show, and that's I guess has got to be it because he's the fan favorite of the original series. Like everybody loves him, but nobody even remembers the original. Nobody even cares about the original 5. But yeah, I really enjoyed the twist at the end. I won't spoil it for you guys, but the twist at the end was unexpected, but really good. I thought it fit really well, and it's one of those things that I would love to see fully realized, like the Mortal Kombat fan film where they got 7 of 9 to play.
Jerry Ryan.
Yeah.
Did she play Sonya?
Sonya. Yeah, Sonya.
Yeah, Sonya Blade.
So I thought that was really cool, and then they actually went through and made 2 seasons of it, and I really enjoyed that. And I'm like, if they wanted to make a couple extra episodes of this Power Rangers thing, I would watch it.
Yeah. Matthew, and I lost it. And Twisted Ideas are telling us that nudity is the difference between the safe for work and not safe for work version. So maybe we finally see Rita and Lord Zed get it on.
No, I think it was probably the Black Ranger, because I think there was a little threesome going on in one of his scenes, and there was no nudity in the scene in the edited version.
That's disappointing.
Yeah.
And James says that Power Rangers never ended. Is it really? It's still going? Wow.
Well, they have various versions of it. So they had the original Power Rangers, and then they had Power Rangers Ninja Force and Power Rangers
new
Furious
season
Force,
and then
Power. They basically did Power Rangers magic, like mystical, like where they actually had magic, and then samurais and with construction vehicles and all kinds
Yeah.
of stuff. You know,
There's a dinosaur one and a ninja
uh,
one and a car one and a time travel one and um
tons
it,
of them. Yeah.
yep. It's still not my show. Not something I really cared about growing up.
No,
I thought it was
not at all.
stupid. And I've
Yeah,
watched
someone threatened a lawsuit over that. So
yeah, the company that owns Power Rangers is put out takedown requests. From what I understand, Facebook is actually hosting it, so you can still find it on the director's Facebook page. Who's the same guy who did Torque and Detention. So kind of an
mhm.
offbeat filmmaker, and I read an interview with him, and it's interesting. And he's not a fan of fan films. Uh, what I got from his
So he
interview,
makes one himself.
what I got from this interview is the fan film is really a satire of why these things suck and why they're bad, and everyone loves it. And he's like, he goes, "No, people, this is
Oh man.
stupid. This is
But yeah,
terrible. This is the worst thing about this." You
no,
all,
the original the actor who played Tommy the Green Ranger, I forget his name, but he posted a response to this, and I didn't actually watch it. I just kind of read some summarizations of his thoughts, but he wasn't a big fan of it because he felt that it kind of betrayed the innocence and child friendly nature of Power Rangers and stuff, and it's just not what he would consider a worthy fan representation, a fan creation for somebody who's actually a fan and wants to reach out to other fans of Power Rangers. So
yeah, meh. If you enjoy it, you enjoy it.
uh,
If you wanted to do a really hard R-rated Ghostbusters being my favorite film, by the way, bring it on. I'll watch it. And if it's good, it's good. I'll enjoy it. I don't mind seeing different takes on my favorite properties. I'm not beholden to one particular iteration.
Ghostbusters
It's something
crossed
I
with
enjoy.
The Walking Dead. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, it's the ghosts have overrun the earth. So,
Yeah.
all right. So let us move on to the poll, which I should actually close. There we go. So, Batman Arkham Knight, and that's Knight, so Arkham Knight,
Mhm.
which I was surprised does not refer to Batman. There is actually a character in this game called
Called
the
Arkham
Arkham
Knight.
Knight.
Yeah.
Uh, okay, hey, that works. So, Batman Arkham Knight is coming out June 2nd, I believe, and it has a ESRB rating of M for mature, which a lot of people were really struck by because all the previous games in the Arkham series, Arkham Asylum, City, Origins, and Origins: Blackgate, were rated teen.
Yeah.
So there was some. So the poll this week asks, will the M rating hurt Batman's sales? And we had 223 people vote, and only 1% said significantly less people will buy it now that it's M-rated.
Yeah. Right.
15% said it won't sell as much as it would with a T rating, but it won't be a sales failure. 55% said, nope, pretty much everyone who is interested will still buy it. And 28% says, as a matter of fact, it will sell better with an M rating. So, let's see. Where is the poll? Poll. There it is. Okay, so what's the difference between the two ratings? Well, the last time I looked, which was a few days ago, there was no rating summary yet, so we just have the M rating and the content descriptors. And what I found was kind of interesting. The new game has a content descriptor for language, while all the previous titles sported mild language content descriptors. So is the cursing a little bit harsher in Batman Arkham Knight? Does someone drop an F-bomb somewhere?
Huh.
All of the games
Oh.
have had blood, suggestive themes, and violence as content descriptors, but every previous title has had some sort of descriptor for alcohol, tobacco, or drug references / use. Arkham Knight is the first one that doesn't have an alcohol, tobacco, or
Yeah.
drug descriptor. So found that kind of interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. I'm looking at this now, and yeah, you've got Arkham Asylum, which is T. It's got alcohol and tobacco reference, blood, mild language, suggestive themes, and violence. And yeah, I can get that. Arkham City, basically the same thing, except it has use of tobacco in there. Let's see. Then Arkham Origins, blood, drug reference, language, mild, suggestive themes, and violence. And then Arkham Knight is blood, language, suggestive themes, and violence. So yeah, that's very interesting. And just judging by that, the violence descriptor is not anything different than the other games. So it's like, which of those four things bumps it up to an M rating? Because everything else is present in everything other than mild language being changed to language.
Yeah.
So that's weird.
Now,
I can't wait to see
no
the actual rating summary when it
Yeah,
comes out.
right. There's no magical, each content descriptor is worth a certain amount of points, and a certain amount of points added up brings you over the edge and into an M rating. That's not how it works, nor is how it should work. But it's just interesting. I'm like you. I'll be interested to see the eventual rating summary and see just why the game. The producer, one of the producers or directors, someone associated with the game, interviewed with IGN and said, well. We weren't trying for an M rating. It's still the same kind of tone and theme as the previous games, but this being the end of a trilogy, Origins, I guess, being kind of a prequel thing outside of the trilogy, and Blackgate being a side story. Lost my train of thought. Damn it. It said that, being the end of a trilogy, it all converges and comes to this, all of the bad guys are out for Batman's blood. So, it's a little darker, a little harsher. Maybe that's enough to put it into an M rating. But as far as will an M rating hurt the sales? Me personally, nope. There may be a couple kids there somewhere whose parents will be like, nope, no M-rated games for you. But I think really everyone who wanted to play the game is going to play the game.
Yeah, that's pretty much my thought too. It's like there's not any. I doubt there's going to be anybody that just going to straight up say nope, no Batman for me anymore because it's rated M. Other than there's parents out there who don't let their kids play M-rated games, but they'll let them play T-rated games. But yeah, so I don't think there's going to be any change in sales, but I definitely don't think it's going to sell more now for some reason. Because I doubt there's very many people out there who say, I'm not playing anything but M-rated games. I doubt there's very many people like that. So.
It's not a video game unless you can kill something that bleeds.
Yeah. So, but yeah, this kind of remind. Zippy brought this up in the comments to the original article, but he brought up the GTA San Andreas, how that one was changed to an AO rating after the hot coffee thing was discovered, and he says, well, the AO rating didn't stop people from buying GTA, and I just had to that made me shake my head. I'm like, what? That doesn't make any sense. People already bought GTA before it was rated AO. It's like
the game was re-rated about 8 months after it came out. The game came out, I think, in like September or October, and the re-rating came about sometime in the spring, like April or June, or May, somewhere around there. And what happened was the version that was out on the shelves, the version with the inaccessible hot coffee code that you could only get at with a game shop or something,
console,
or modding stuff, was re-rated AO, and was but Rockstar immediately replaced it with the M-rated version without the code that you couldn't get at anyway. So one, pretty much everyone who had bought the game had already bought the game. Two, this probably just raised attention for the game and said, well, I got to check this out now.
Yeah,
Um,
you know, probably more people bought it after it was rated AO before companies started pulling it off the shelves than had bought it before if they weren't
yeah, well,
interested
no one really
originally.
pulled it off the shelves.
Yeah.
They were given AO stickers that they could put on the box, and and they immediately replaced it with the M-rated version.
Yeah.
So there was it's something I heard a lot was mainly from Jack Thompson, was that there was a product recall. There was no
Yeah.
product recall. It wasn't a recall. There was no defective product. It
There
was a
was a class
re-rating.
action lawsuit that
Oh yeah.
that the class did win, and you could get like $15 from Rockstar or a replacement copy,
If you
something
still
stupid
had
like
the
that. If
original receipt,
Yeah, if you still had your original receipt, you could get a replacement copy or like $15. It was really stupid.
still
Um,
got the receipt from that game you bought a year ago, or actually by the time the
Actually, it
class
was like
action
three
suit was there,
years
several
ago.
years ago.
Yeah,
Yeah. I don't.
yeah.
I keep receipts for about a month, and then I do my
Yeah, it's like
credit
once
card bill.
the return period is over, that receipt's gone.
Yeah.
Um, but Matthew, brings up a point. It says Matthew says that there should be a rating between T and M, and this has been my suggestion for years. I think almost since the ESRB kind of really took hold in the PS2 era, but it's been my opinion that there should be a T, which is 13, and then an M16, and then an M18, and just get rid of the AO rating because that just is really stupid. But that's my opinion, and if that were in effect, I would probably guarantee you that Batman would have been rated M16 rather than M18. So yeah.
What about a T13, a T15, and an M17?
See, I could go with that too, but I just think the AO rating just needs to go.
So do
And
I. That I agree with. No,
but yeah,
the AO rating's completely useless.
but like Peggy, the European rating system has I think theirs is 12, 16, and 18, and so I think it's something like that, maybe 15 and 18. But or I can look that up real quick.
Yeah, because I haven't looked at the Peggy for a while.
Let's see, where are you at?
Load.
3, 7, 12, 16, and 18.
There you go.
So they understand that there's a need for kids who are old enough, 16-year-olds, they're old enough to buy most games themselves, and then 18 is those that are mainly for adults. But yeah. But yeah, as Real Next Gen Vixen says, the UK ratings are the same, and really I think that was the BBFC too, but now they're using Peggy for all their game ratings. But yeah.
Yep. So, moving on, we have Nielsen, which released a report this week on why gamers buy the consoles that they buy. And it was really interesting. So, it looked at owners of the PlayStation 4, the Xbox One, and the Nintendo Wii U. Don't know why I put the company name in front of that one and not the other two, but whatever. So, those who they asked which of the following are the main reasons you purchased your particular console. The number one reason for PlayStation was a better resolution, and it has come out that on average, the games on the PlayStation are running at 1080p, and the games on the Xbox One are running at 720p. There are, of course, outliers there, but typically when you're seeing the same game on both, you have a higher resolution on Sony's console. So people bought a PlayStation 4 because I'm getting a better resolution. The number one reason for buying Xbox One was the brand.
So people just like Microsoft.
Well, it's because I had
Xbox.
I had an Xbox 360. All my friends have an Xbox 360. May as well get the next Xbox.
Mm-hmm.
And the number one reason why people bought a Wii U was fun factor.
You would think that would be the number one reason for all consoles. It's like because I want something that I can play, I can have fun with.
Seriously, you would think that the first reason would be because something along the lines of because it has the games I want to play.
Yeah. Which is
So,
surprising because for the PlayStation, that comes in at number 3 is the game library,
mhm.
and then for the Xbox,
Number
4 is
4.
exclusive games, and 5 is fun factor.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So listing them out. So the people bought PlayStation. The people interviewed by Nielsen. Sony PlayStation 4. Number 1, better resolution. Number 2, Blu-ray player.
Who doesn't have one at this point? If they
You know,
want one.
I have a
Yeah.
I have a PS3 now, so I have a Blu-ray player. So that is kind of, that would almost be like because it plays DVDs. It's like, really? um, I mean,
Okay.
Blu-ray. Back when the PS3 came out, that's a really good reason because Blu-ray players were really
Or really
expensive.
expensive, yeah, 400 or
And the
500
PlayStation,
bucks. Yeah.
yeah, the PlayStation 3 at the time was like the best Blu-ray player out there. Not only because it was just the best Blu-ray player out there from functionality and cost effectiveness, but it was constantly being updated.
Yeah.
Uh,
So it
now with
took
the
advantage of
PS4,
all
it's
the
like,
new
really?
features of Blu-rays and stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so
So
moving on.
number 3 is game library. Number 4 is faster processing power. I don't even know if that's true. I could look up the specs and we
Uh,
could see which one has a faster processor, but they're probably pretty close. So, this one has more megahertz. And number
yeah, if they
5
cared
is
about higher resolution and faster processing power, they would go with PC. That's what Matthew says.
seriously, yeah, better resolution. I guess it's
Yeah.
that's a good point. I mean, if you're that hung up on specs, go PC, man. And
All
number
right, number
5 is
5.
what the family wants. And it's
Yeah.
like, well, I mean, if your kids are yelling at you to get a PlayStation, that's what you get. So
Yeah.
Xbox One, number 1, brand. Number 2, innovative features.
Innovative features. I guess people do like the Kinect, huh?
I guess they like the
Or
idea of the Kinect until they try to use it.
well, they like the idea of Kinect, and they also like the idea of being able to Skype with someone while you're watching TV or playing a game, and I think that's all I remember about their
Yeah.
features.
Now, number 3 is actually also faster processing power, which is interesting because there can be only one. But I'm wondering if the answer is more along the lines of faster processing power than its predecessor, not than its
Yeah.
its contemporary.
That could be it. Yeah.
Yeah.
People are comparing it to the previous version of that same brand rather than comparing between brands.
Yeah.
But,
Number 4, exclusive games and content. What exclusive games and content?
Halo.
Halo's not out yet. Well,
Well,
Halo.
they've got the Halo
collection,
pack, the
which
original.
still doesn't work.
Yeah.
And it's not a new game. I mean, it's just a bundle of old games, but whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, you do have Dead Rising 3 and Rise: Son of Rome,
Which has been
and
critically panned for the most part.
which is also on PC. Well, so is Dead Rising 3. So, exclusive to Xbox One.
Does anybody out there know any exclusive Xbox games?
I'm pretty sure there's some. There's got to be a game that's only on the Xbox One and not on, also PC or 360.
Yes, Matthew. Nobody cares about Blu-rays. I don't. I have a PS3, and I use it to watch DVDs.
Sunset Overdrive. Thank you,
There we
Matthew.
go.
I knew there
That
was
one actually
one.
looks interesting, but I hear it's not.
Oh,
it's
and Killer
not
Instinct.
Killer
That's
Instinct,
right.
Yeah.
I knew there were some.
Yeah. All right, but number 5 was Fun Factor. So people
And the exclusive
cared more
Connect
about
2.0
brand than Fun Factor for the Xbox.
Yeah. So for Wii U, number 1 is Fun Factor. Number 2 is Better for Kids.
Yeah, there's a greater emphasis on family play and everything on the Wii U.
I think
So,
there's just less emphasis on M-rated games. Actually.
pretty much, yeah.
It's not so much we emphasize the family friendly. It's we don't have many mature games. We got Zombie U. That's about
and
it.
Bayonetta.
And Bayonetta. Yeah, there are. Yeah, Zombie U, Bayonetta. There's a couple. So number 3 is price or value, which is. I still think
fair,
the Wii U is
yeah.
overpriced, but
Of
still
course.
cheaper than its contemporaries, which came out a year later.
Um,
Number 4 is backwards compatibility. Now that is a big one.
Yes. You can still play your Wii games. You can still play your Virtual Console games and your WiiWare games that you bought. So it's definitely a good value when it
Yeah.
comes to that. So
Yeah,
yeah.
number 5 is exclusive games and content, which I could actually just rattle off, and still forget a bunch. So,
Oh yeah.
I'm
Basically,
surprised
Nintendo's
that's not
catalog.
there. Yeah, well, it would have to because it's missing almost all of the third-party games. So, really, the
Yeah.
only thing on the console is the stuff exclusive to that console. And
Yeah.
Laxter37 suggests is Amiibo number 30 is number 6.
Number
Might be.
6. Yeah, people
Um,
bought it so they could play with amiibos.
Yeah, but it's an interesting. I don't see the original. What the whole pool of responses was.
Yeah,
So
it'd be
I
nice to see the actual numbers behind this.
yeah, but
How
I
many
find
people
it.
said these out of
Yeah,
the total group?
I find it very interesting that, according to this survey, most people bought a PlayStation or Xbox for
Hardware reasons.
superficial reasons, perhaps,
Yeah.
and people buy the Nintendo hardware because it's got cool games on it. It's got the games I want to play. Yeah, it's an interesting observed trend, I think.
Yeah, and I think that's. And to be honest, I think Nintendo is probably ecstatic about this
Yeah.
because those 5 reasons is pretty much their entire marketing strategy since the Wii. You know, make fun games and release the console at a price people can afford. That's what they've been doing since the Wii, and while Microsoft and Sony have been chasing hardware power and and innovative features. you know, they've been chasing those more than fun games and
Well, I applaud anyone who tries something new. I mean, even if it doesn't work, like Connect. I would have appreciated it if Microsoft had realized, okay, this doesn't work, no one likes it, no need to shove it down anyone's throat or employ some weird DRM scheme to force people to use it. I think it was a valiant effort. I think it was a good idea. It just doesn't work, and it's not
yeah.
how people want to play games. Or at least it doesn't work yet. And
Yeah.
2.0 is actually better, but it still sucks and still is not how I want to play games. Um,
Okay,
but
Forbes does not want me to read that article. Sorry, I was
if
trying to
I'm
open up that
remembering,
article that Matthew posted, and it bumped to this thought of the day,
oh,
and it won't
I
let
had
me
that
click
problem
this
too.
continue to cite thing. So I'm like, screw it. I'm not.
If I'm remembering correctly, the article is essentially saying that what's holding Nintendo back is its inability or unwillingness to modernize. Not that it has to chase the whatever you chase to the end of wherever you're going for ultra and super duper graphics. It's not so much that you don't have the best graphics on the Wii U, it's that the Wii U locks out PS4 and Xbox One games. You actually can't port an Xbox One or a PS4 game to the Wii U without making significant downgrades and changes. So it's not so much, oh, the graphics aren't good enough, it's developers can't make games for this.
Well, I guess if Nintendo wanted to, they could make a $500 console, but that would lock out a lot of the people they are trying to reach.
True, but I think
So,
they could, if Sony managed to do a $400 console, I think Nintendo could have too. Unless Sony is taking a humongous loss on its hardware. But
well,
being that
I
it's
don't think Microsoft or Sony have released a console with a profit built into its price in the last 10 years. So,
yeah, but it could get at least closer. Um, the GameCube was not quite as beefy as the Xbox was, and the PS2 wasn't even quite as beefy as the GameCube was. Uh,
yeah.
but you still had the same games on pretty much all 3 platforms, except later in the generation, people started doing for everything but GameCube. But
Yeah.
they were of similar enough power levels that you could pretty much port a game to all 3 consoles. Didn't work with the Wii was the full generation behind the 360 and the PS3, and the Wii is a full generation behind. I'm talking from graphics display capabilities, of course. Full
Yeah,
generation
hardware.
behind the PS4
Yeah.
and the Xbox One, which makes it really damn difficult for developers. The other things he was mentioning were things like, you know, uh, online unified account systems, region locking, stuff everyone else has figured out years ago that Nintendo is not doing or just now getting around
Hmm.
to.
Yeah.
That's what he's talking about in modernization, and I agree. I think Nintendo would be best making sure their console was on par, at least meeting the industry standards of the time, not of the previous generation. You
So do you
know?
think if they next year or this E3 announced a new console that was on par or close enough for government work, when it to the PS4 and the Xbox One, do you think third-party developers like EA and Activision would return to Nintendo platform and actually port their games over?
No, because I don't think most gamers would return. I think it's both too late and too early. I think what Nintendo's going to have to do is just ride out um, the current generation and release its subsequent console within a year of the next round of consoles and compete with that round. I think it's too late to actually put out another, Wii U 2 or something like that in the next year um, that competes with the PS4 and Xbox One because everyone's pretty much drawn their line in the sand at that point. I think it would be too little too late. Real Next Gen Vixen also points out something from the article. It's not just Nintendo's system; it refuses to modernize its views towards YouTube and online interactivity. And yeah, that's another thing.
Yeah.
Nintendo's the only
Their
one who's
YouTube policy is a
yeah.
symptom of their overall online view of the internet and online capabilities. It's not something unique to YouTube. It's just, yeah, that's just how they view online stuff. It's got to, they're very tightly controlled with their consoles, and they're trying to expand that same control to a space that doesn't like that kind of control.
Mhm.
You can see it with their chat thing where you can actually draw stuff to people and stuff. They have active moderators on there who watch those things to make sure that naughty stuff doesn't get through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Laxter37 says he's scared that the PS5, Xbox Infinity, whatever they end up being called, I'm certain that the PlayStation will be called the PlayStation 5, will
I
just
think they're
be.
going to go with Xbox irrational, and it's going to be the Xbox square root of -1 is going to be the symbol.
um, Laxter37 is concerned they'll just be streaming boxes anyway. Well, by that point, hopefully the U.S. and apologies for being completely U.S. centric, but that's where I live,
Yeah,
won't be behind the rest of the world.
the
Well,
Xbox
a
too.
huge chunk of the rest of the world as far as broadband speeds, uh, because if we could up that a
If
bit, it
Yeah,
wouldn't be that much
if
of a problem.
a sizable enough segment of the population in the U.S., much of Europe and Asia, had access to broadband speeds of 50 megabits per second and greater with low latency, yeah, they could go with streaming boxes. But with our current internet setup, they would sell maybe a couple million of those, and because very few people would actually be able to use them to their full capabilities.
Yeah, but there is a. I think eventually we will see that because there is a certain advantage to having a streaming console. Essentially, the game is run off-site, so it's essentially the developer. Man, my hair is sticking up. The developers basically build the hardware that they need to run the game, and the game is run there, and then all you're doing is, what the Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft are doing is selling controllers and peripherals, and if you're Sony,
Yeah.
probably compatible televisions.
I read a book not too long ago called oh shoot, no, what no, I can't remember what it was called, but it was a book about the excesses of our anti-terrorism society, and Little Brother, that's what it was called. And it was about this boy who basically rebelled against the government and their monitoring of everybody's movements and credit card purchases and everything. And in this, the author basically um, predicts the future of loss leader marketing. Right now, the Xbox One and the PS4, they sell it cheaper than what it costs to produce because they expect to make the money back on the game sales. But in this book, the author predicts that eventually if they continue down this path, eventually they're going to get to a point where they're giving away the consoles, literally giving away the consoles, so that people would buy the games. And so the clever hackers eventually found ways to run Linux off a disk on these systems, and they were able to use that as their dark net, for coordinating protests and stuff. It was really cool. But yeah, but that's I like that future of video game consoles, is where you can get the console for free and just buy the games.
Although, the problem with that, of course, is internet outages.
Yeah.
Granted, we don't have the infrastructure right now to support anything
No,
like
we
that
don't.
on that large of a scale. But at some point in the future, unless something goes way off into a different direction, I think that's eventually where we'll start to go. And we're seeing with the all the download. I mean, even Nintendo, you can buy games digitally, download them, and play them. So we're heading in that direction, I think.
Yeah, I think download. I think where the primary mode of gaining games is downloading. I think that would probably be the next generation, because we're getting to a point where it's just kind of pointless to buy physical discs, and it's going to be sad for those of us who actually like the physical games. But yeah, I think we're getting to a point where there's going to be a greater emphasis on downloading the games over buying them.
Yeah, and Real Next Gen Vixen brings up one of my biggest problems with a service like that, and that's what if you wanted to replay a game that Sony or whoever did not support on their service anymore?
Oh,
That's
yeah.
a good point. I still
I
own
hate that
Atari
with
games.
Netflix.
Yeah. It's if they don't have it on their servers anymore, you aren't playing it. I don't like the idea that I don't own my games anymore. I like my little pile of games down there.
Yeah, and like with Netflix, there's been a couple of times where I was watching a television series, and then like I'm halfway through the series, and Netflix announces, "Oh, in 2 weeks we're taking this off." And it's like,
Yeah.
what? And it's like my son was really into Beakman's World. He was watching Beakman's World, and then we find out that in like a week's time they were going to take it off, and he tried to binge watch everything, but he didn't have enough time to watch all the episodes because he was really into Beakman's World, and then they took it off, and it was really sad, and so yeah, the same thing's going to happen with a streaming system. Games are going to disappear. It already happens on purely digital systems like your phones, where a game will get taken off of iTunes for some reason, and if you don't have it installed, even if you've bought it before, you can't get it anymore, if it's not already on your phone.
Well, maybe the service will be complementary to a more traditional hardware model. Like, if you want, you can go buy a $400 or $500 piece of hardware to put in your home and plug and download games to, or you can buy the $80 controller and just stream games on your TV for whatever fee.
Yeah.
Maybe if they made it we offer this service. It's a choice. If you want to do it this way, you can do it this way. If you want to do it the other way, you can do it the other way. So let us move on to a new topic, and that new topic is net neutrality. So the FCC, they voted. They all sat in a room and raised their hands and said aye and things like that, and they voted to reclassify broadband and mobile as a common carrier. And what that means is they now have the authority to enact the net neutrality rules, meaning no paid prioritization, no throttling, and all legal internet traffic is treated equally. So we have had comments from lots of different peoples. President Obama gives a thumbs up. ESA is thumbs up. Electronic Frontier Foundation is thumbs up. With there's still more work to be done because we gotta keep watching the FCC to make sure it doesn't, get too big for its britches. Because the order is like 300 pages, so I haven't read it. I'm not even sure if the whole
Well,
thing's
nobody's
available
read it yet because they haven't made it available, and
Yeah, it's
and
not
it's
available
likely to make it's likely to not be made available for at least a month, maybe even more, because the two no votes. There's 5 people who voted on these
Right.
rules. 3 of them voted for it, and then 2 of them voted against it. And it was a party line vote. So the 3 voting for were
Interestingly,
Democrats,
yeah.
and Republicans were voting against. But those 2 no votes, they have the power to drag the process out before they release that, and they're going to do everything they can to drag this out so that these rules don't get released and therefore don't go into effect for several months, probably.
Yeah.
And then
Now,
you've got all the endless lawsuits from various parties over the next couple of years too. So that'll be it.
we've already heard from Verizon and AT&T, and they don't like it. And I imagine Verizon will probably be the first one to follow.
Yes, and
file
Verizon's
suit.
going to start swearing at us in Morse code if we're not careful.
One of the most interesting comments I thought was from Will Marshall, who's the president of Progressive Policy Institute, who said the FCC's decision today to impose outmoded telephone regulation on the internet is a bad call substantively and politically. In the first instance, there is no evidence of a systemic misconduct that would justify dramatically expanding the FCC's power to regulate the internet. In a classic case of fixing something that ain't broke, the FCC has reached for the biggest possible hammer to deal with abuses that haven't yet to happen. I wonder if this guy has never heard of Verizon or Comcast.
No, Laxter. Sorry, I got to address. Laxter asks if the no vote's main concern was that the rules weren't made public first, and that's not true. The FCC rarely releases the rules before the vote, and usually the rules don't get released to the public for several weeks after the vote, anyways. So that's nothing out of the ordinary. The main concerns of those 2 no votes was that the FCC's net neutrality rules were not in line with the interests of big telco companies, big ISPs like Comcast and AT&T and Verizon. So that was their concern. So
Right. So his suggestion, and I just clicked away from the article. His suggestion that it's fixing a problem that doesn't exist is, well, incorrect, because they're fixing stuff that Verizon and Comcast have already been doing.
yeah,
So the other thing. The
go
other
ahead,
thing
go
is his saying that the decision to impose outmoded telephone regulations on the internet is a bad call, and potentially it would be. But according to the Electronic Frontier Foundation, the FCC has forbeared the stuff that doesn't apply to modern internet.
Yeah.
We don't have the actual
Rules
stuff on that
yeah.
yet. But
and Matthew, yes, that Matthew says he's still concerned about the details, and you should be.
Oh yes.
Anytime the government does anything, you should be concerned about the details, and that was one of the biggest concerns about the Affordable Care Act when it was passed. The thing was 16,000 pages long. And supporters of it were like, well, we got to pass it before we can know what's in it. It's like, what kind of government is that? You've got to understand the details, and that's going to be one of the concerns. That's going to be one of the things that are talked about endlessly over the next few weeks to few months. Is just what are the details in these rules, and then once the rules come out, people are going to go over it with a fine-tooth comb to find out what exactly they're doing, and the EFF, they're going to be going through this line by line, making sure that they agree with everything. They're going to voice their concerns about stuff that they don't like, and it's people are going to pay attention to the details once they can get a hold of them. So yeah. But as for one of the things that people are already talking about this on Facebook and stuff, and you know, I'm very involved with libertarian communities on Facebook and in real life. You know, I'm a libertarian when it comes down to things, and I'm not a big fan of government regulation, government oversight, you know, things like this. You know, where it's like, you know, if the private sector can do it, you know, let them do it. You know, but the thing is you know, while I support free markets, I recognize that the internet service here in the U.S. is far from a free market, and we have areas in, you know, significant areas in the U.S. that do not have access to more than one or two decent internet providers. You know, at my last house, we had one DSL provider, and that was it. And I was paying for 10 megabits per second down and like half a megabit up. You know, I was paying what I'm paying now for 50 down and 5 up. You know, it's like, you know, that's you know, that was insane to me. And you know, here where I'm living now, I've got the choice of AT&T and Cox, and you know, and we went with Cox because, you know, we liked their service better. But I would love to have like 4 or 5 options, but that's not going to happen in the U.S. Except for very very limited, highly densely populated areas. But yeah, you know, so because we don't have a truly free market internet market, I think there needs to be some kind of pushback against bad behavior, which we've already seen with Comcast and Verizon slowing down Netflix purposely so that they could force Netflix to pay them extra money to open up a few extra connection points. And then we've had like companies like AT&T and other services where they're blocking VoIP services to force people onto their telephone subscriptions. And then we have companies that would also are interested in creating tiered services where it's like, you know, you want to watch streaming movies? Well, buy the streaming movie package. You know, you're going to get the same speeds on everything else, but your movies are going to stranger. You know, it's like, you know, we don't want that kind of stuff because those aren't good for consumers. And these FCC rules, they're going to address those issues. And until we get truly free markets for internet, yeah, I think they are a necessary evil, you know, a necessary government oversight at this point.
Matthew asked us if we've heard of Google's threat about Google Fiber allowing emails for permit paperwork, or they won't bring it to your town. I saw something about this. Basically, Google saying either do this or enjoy AT&T because we're not going to bother. And I didn't read the article though, so I'm
not familiar with this at all. So
yeah, so unfortunately can't comment on it. But I do like the idea. It's like, oh, you don't want to play by Google rules? Well, you just enjoy AT&T. Bye bye.
Yeah.
That is pretty funny to me. But let us move on to another topic. And that is the Game Developer Conference will be kicking off at some point. And speaking of kicking, it will be kicking out people who are mean. Where is it? Let's see. No. Yes. Okay. So the GDC general manager, Megan, name I'm probably going to butcher, Scavio, something like that.
Scavio.
Yeah, she put out a friendly little reminder that the GDC is happening, and she says everyone is welcome at GDC, and that means we expect each attendee, exhibitor, member of the media, speaker, volunteer, staff member, and vendor to behave respectfully, considerately, and professionally. And they said, you know, mind the code of conduct, or I will kick you out and won't refund your money. And the code of conduct has a very short section on expected behavior. It says, be considerate, respectful, and collaborative. Refrain from demeaning, discriminatory, or harassing behavior at speech. Be mindful of your surroundings and of your fellow participants. Alert conference organizers if you notice a dangerous situation or someone in distress. And then it moves on to the multiple paragraph unacceptable behavior section, which says, no intimidating, harassing, abusive, discriminatory, derogatory, or demeaning conduct by any attendees. Harassment includes offensive verbal comments related to gender, sexual orientation, race, religion, disability, inappropriate use of nudity and or sexual images in public spaces, including presentation slides, deliberate intimidation, stalking or following, harassing photography or recording, sustained disruption of talks or other events, inappropriate physical contact, and unwelcome sexual attention. And that's just the first two paragraphs that I kind of paraphrased.
Yeah.
It goes on and on and on, and it's just a damn shame to me that this stuff is even necessary. It essentially says, "Don't be an asshole, or we will show you the door."
Pretty much, yeah. There's all kinds of stuff in here, and yeah, yeah. And so yeah, that's it. I think this is kind of one of those things that probably wouldn't have to be said, in such an open way, had we not had these harassment campaigns, towards people like Anita Sarkeesian and Brianna Wu and Zoe Quinn. I don't know how many of those harassers would actually show up at GDC, but GDC is not one of those places that is free from harassment or not sexist behavior, I guess, because there Leigh Alexander and a few other and a bunch of women game developers and stuff, they have horror stories from GDC's past where they're at a game developers party / meetup or whatever, and people are constantly going up to them. It's like, oh, you guys like games, and stuff, and assuming that they're not game developers, that they're there with a man that's
I'm
there
just
as a game
someone's
developer.
girlfriend, that kind of thing.
And
So, go ahead.
oh, I was just gonna say that's the type of behavior that I've read about in the past, but I think GDC, they're just kind of taking a preemptive strike at any potential harassment that might come their way this year. So.
Yeah, it just saddens me that we exist in a culture, and I don't mean gaming culture, I mean culture, where stuff like this is even necessary.
Mm-hmm.
Where you feel compelled to spell out every damn thing you can't do. It's like, here are the things that do not qualify as being a decent human being, because there are a few people that just don't seem to understand that.
Well,
This is.
And this is the kind of behavior, like, totally unrelated to video games, but yesterday at the Oklahoma State Capitol, there was a Muslim Day where the Council on American Islamic Relations held a day where Muslim members of the Oklahoma communities could come to the Capitol, talk to their legislatures, learn about the legislative process, how to work with and communicate with their government and everything. And they held a prayer service and had a bunch of speeches and stuff. But it was just a big day where a lot of people could come, and there were a lot of great interfaith groups and political groups who came in support of CARE and this Muslim organization and this day. But there was also a bunch of jerks who came to protest the event and harass the Muslim attendees and those in support of them, and there was actually reports of people being yelled out and spit upon as they tried to enter the Capitol, and it was pretty sad to see. And I watched a video of a guy spouting off his ignorant stuff about Muslims and everything, and the guy recording the video was just kind of laughing at him, and because everything he was saying was so stupid it was funny. And but yeah, it's just that's the kind of behavior that is just doesn't make sense to me. I tend, there are times when I get really annoyed and I don't like somebody, but I'm not going to go out and protest them and and slap them and punch them for no reason. And if I don't like somebody, I'm just not going to talk to them. I'm going to avoid them.
I think the Game Developer Conference itself will probably be fine.
Yeah,
everyone makes faux pas. I'm sure there will be people saying something or doing something stupid because it's human nature. It happens. But it costs a fair amount of coin to go to GDC. So I think if you're at the conference,
like $1,500
you're probably
for a full pass there. Like if you want to go to everything, it's like $1,500. So it's not a cheap thing to go to. It's
Yeah.
not something that your average gamer is going to go to.
Yeah, a lot of the issues we hear about with people getting harassed or inappropriate entertainment options, things like that, usually happen at events like these off-site. And
Yeah.
uh, Megan, whatever your last name, I'm very sorry. That one's not rolling off my tongue. Uh, she does address this. She says, "No, I can only claim control over what happens at the official event, but I implore everyone to extend basic human decency to off-site activities, namely parties. You might attend some parties or networking events during GDC week. Remember, intimidation, harassment, abuse, discrimination, sexual aggression, these are bad things. Don't do them." I like that. These are
Yeah.
bad. Don't do them. And that's usually where you end up seeing instances of people harassed. Now, you usually see dumb stuff like, "Oh, whose girlfriend are you?" It's like, I'm a game developer, dude. You'll see that at E3 or some of these events because some people are just still
Yeah.
silly. But
Yeah,
usually
definitely.
the bad stuff usually happens off-site.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely. And I think GDC is a little. I think it's a controlled enough environment where we're not going to see anything bad happening at the event or even outside the event. And I doubt any of these outside parties are going to have anything bad going on other than the occasional moron putting their foot in their mouth when talking to a woman developer, or
yeah.
woman woman reporter or something. So
But at the very least, GDC seems to be doing its best to say this is as inclusive and safe a space as we can possibly make it. We don't tolerate people being naughty, and we'll happily show them the door. So everyone on their best behavior. Everyone be excellent to one another, and everything will
yeah.
be fine. So
You say that, and I watched Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure with my son the first time this week, and he loved it. So
yeah, it's a
good
fun
movie.
movie.
I like
Yeah.
Bill and Ted.
They're apparently making a third one.
Yep,
I,
they're making a third one.
yeah.
And speaking of third movies, they're going to
It
make
should be R-rated and dark and gritty.
Netflix is making a third Pee Wee Herman movie. So
Mm-hmm.
they've got Big Adventure and Big Top Pee Wee on Netflix, and they're producing a third Pee Wee Herman movie. So I'm
And
excited
also
for
a new
that.
Inspector Gadget cartoon.
I'm not
And
aware of an Inspector Gadget
yeah,
cartoon.
it was Inspector Gadget and something else. Let me see if I can look that up real quick. Um, nope. Oh,
'Cause I,
Danger Mouse. Yeah, Danger
oh,
Mouse was the
Danger
other one.
Mouse, yeah. Because I did see something about some 3D animated Inspector Gadget that came out pretty terrible. Like somebody mentioned that, I think, in the Pee Wee Herman thread
I think
on
it's already
Pile
out in
9.
Europe or something like
Yeah.
that, so it's already been seen, but we haven't seen it yet. So, okay, moving on. And I may as well just go through the rest of them. So we had
Might as
a
well, yeah.
indie game developer who was doing what he does, developing indie games, and said, "You know what? I need some people to test my game. Where can I get a bunch of people who are all in one place and have nothing better to do?" And he went to the DMV.
Nice.
Now,
When you need a captive audience, the DMV is your place.
as an indie developer yourself, what did you think of this solution?
I thought that was kind of an interesting thing, because you go to the DMV, and there's a bunch of people there. They know they're going to be there for at least an hour, so they're looking for something to do. Most of them will have their phone with them, and so being able to say, "Hey, I'm making a game. Do you want to test it out for me?" You can get a free copy of it too while you're doing it. And it's like, let them download the game and play it. I think that's a really cool idea, and I doubt I would have the guts to actually to do it myself, but because I hate going up to strangers and just trying to sell them crap. That's why I don't work in the retail industry, but but yeah, but still, I think that's a pretty neat idea.
Yeah, and apparently it was very valuable for him. I read the article on was it Gama Sutra or somewhere.
Yeah.
Um, and it, the DMV didn't officially allow him to be there, but since he didn't seem to be bothering anybody, apparently no one ever bothered with him. Um, yeah, I thought it was just a really clever idea, and glad it worked out well for him because the game is now done and available, and I haven't played it because I'm not really. I don't want to play a game on my phone, but it looks like something you'd see in a mini game collection, like
Yeah.
maybe a WarioWare game or something.
Well,
It's a phone game.
I've actually seen it looks kind of like there was a game my kids were playing on their tablets, and it was like a snake game where you had to drag the snake around the screen and have them eat apples. I don't know why a snake is eating apples. You would think that they would be eggs.
Should
or
be
something.
mice.
Yeah, eggs
Should
or
be
mice or
cute
something.
little mice running and screaming for their lives.
But yeah, but you had to get through this entire screen and get all of the apples in order to
Mm-hmm.
win the match or win the round, and they had a lot of fun with it. And the game looks similar concept wise to that. It's definitely got
Professor
different
Layton mini
features.
games. That's what I was thinking of. The
Yeah.
little bonus games in Professor Layton. Those small little activities that you see. Laxter says downloading unauthorized apps from strangers in the DMV. From what I understand, he brought
He brought his own
things
devices in.
preloaded
Yeah.
onto devices and would hand it to them and let them play for 20 minutes and then have them fill out a short survey and then talk to them about what they thought. And he also apparently told them a little white lie that he says, "No, I'm not the developer. I'm just the guy doing the survey, so you're not going to hurt my feelings." Yeah, try and get more honest reactions from people.
Yeah.
So cool, good idea, person whose name I didn't look up before. Let's see, do I have that?
John Grail, something like that.
Okay,
Yeah.
so another name I would not be able to pronounce. So let us move on to our last topic, which involves, tangentially, I guess, involves a person whose name I can't pronounce. I have no idea how to pronounce this woman's first name. Her last name is Wilson, but her first name is spelled Aoife. I don't know. I don't even know how to begin to pronounce that. So
Wait,
I'm not going
what
to.
was it? Okay, let me see here.
Aoife. I wish
Yeah, I have no idea.
have,
That is
wow.
one of the strangest. You would think that her parents would have just put a U in there just to complete the vowel.
Yeah, she's got all vowels. She's got 4 vowels and a consonant.
And 3 of the vowels are before the consonant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
AOI is a Japanese word, and it's really, well, a romanization of a Japanese word, and it's one of the ones I really can't pronounce very well. That's probably not the right pronunciation to go about it. But anyway, that's completely unimportant. So anyway, Miss Wilson did a video called "The Best Sex I've Ever Had" (parentheses in games) for Eurogamer, in which she talks about sex scenes in video games that work well and sex scenes in video games that do not. And James wrote up this article, and he ended it asking, "Are games better or worse for including sex and romance in games?" And I think that's an interesting question because, as an incredible prude myself, no, I'm just kidding. From what I have personally played in my long lifetime as a gamer, I've never come across a sex scene in a video game done in a way that I found engaging or interesting or complementary to the plot. Now, granted, I play mostly Nintendo games, so I probably haven't been exposed to as many sex scenes in video games as some of you may have. But I find that extends to movies, too. Sex scenes in movies, I'm trying to think of a sex scene in a movie where I'm like, that sex scene right there, that needs to be there. You know, if you took that out of the movie, the movie just wouldn't be the same. It wouldn't quite work as well. You know, sex scenes in movies and video games to me strike me as completely superfluous. I guess it's like you know, because the relationship is important. You know, understanding the relationship between two characters is important, and understanding it's got to that point is important. But I don't feel the need to actually see them do it. It's like that doesn't tell me anything more about their relationship,
I'm
unless
trying to
unless
think of the closest that I can come to is where a sex scene, or at least implied sex, it would be important to the plot, is the original Terminator movie,
Mhm.
because that's the whole that's kind of the whole premise of the movie, is that John Connor sends his friend back in time, who turns out to be his dad. It's just like, the sex scene needs to be there, or at least implied to be there, in order for that to work. But other than that, I can't really think of a film that I see it as necessary. Just yesterday I was watching a chick flick with my wife, and it's one of the few chick flicks I'll actually watch. It's now I can't even remember what it's called, but it's got Minnie Driver and David Duchovny in it, and and it's basically David Duchovny's wife dies in a car wreck, and her heart gets donated to Minnie Driver, who needed a heart transplant, and then Minnie Driver and David Duchovny end up meeting and falling in love, and there was absolutely no sex in the movie at all, and
that is corny.
it was very corny, but it's I like David Duchovny, and so it's like one of the very few chick flicks I'll actually watch. But yeah, it's just the romance in that movie was worked out pretty well, and there was no need for it to culminate into them having sex at some point.
Well,
And
there are movies where the sex is important, like Terminator, but the mechanics of it are not important.
mhm.
I don't really need to see him grinding. You know, it's like, okay, they had sex, I get it. You know, maybe I just don't enjoy watching other people have sex. Maybe it's a jealousy thing. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
if I can't be having sex, I don't want anyone else to have sex either, because I feel left out.
Yeah,
Um,
but for games, I can't think of any game that would have been improved, or at least not been detracted from, had it include a sex scene.
I th-
Romance in games, I can get behind that. If you can get a really good romance subplot going on in your video game, you know, I'm all for that. I think that's really cool, because it can build upon the characterization and interaction between player characters and NPCs and stuff. But I can't really think of how a sex scene would make that romance better. You
yeah,
know.
to me, it's kind of like going to the bathroom. I understand everyone does it, but I don't need an extended scene in a video game of someone unbuckling their pants, dropping it to their ankle, sitting on the can, struggling until they're done, standing up, wiping, putting their pants back on, flushing, then going and washing their hands. It's like, why am I watching? And they went to the bathroom. Okay, my brain can fill in the details from there if
Yeah.
needed. I
Well,
don't need
that's
to
why you
see.
never see people going to the bathroom
Yeah.
in television or most movies. I think the only time I've ever seen somebody going to the bathroom is Lethal Weapon 2, where
Right,
what's his
where
name is on
Murtaugh's
the
on the toilet, but
yeah, and the bomb is
I,
underneath him.
I think he
Yeah.
was like long done. He'd just been sitting there for the hour. The point is not I'm physically going to the bathroom. It's I'm stuck in the bathroom, and that's fine. I think it's really
Yeah.
the mechanics of it just aren't interesting to me, and especially in video games where it just looks awkward and goofy. In Mass Effect, you spend the entire game building this relationship and working up to a certain moment, and then it cuts to this incredibly cheesy, ridiculously directed, softcore late night Cinemax side boob-tastic sex scene, which is just embarrassingly awful. So, and it's like, oh man, the whole relationship is ruined now. now I can't even look this character in the eye because all I can think of is this stupid 25-second sex scene. So, Matthew suggests a girl with the dragon tattoo. I've only seen the original one. I haven't seen the American remake. That sex scene made no damn sense to me. Maybe I'd need to read the book, but for those of you who haven't seen the movie, there's a guy and a girl, and they're working together on a case, and I am really glossing over a bunch of details here. And then one night she just walks in a room and hops right on, and the guy's like, "Oh, okay." And I was watching the movie, I'm going like, "Well, that." Now I'm completely boneheaded when it comes to relationships. I could admit that. eHarmony told me no. That's how bad at this stuff I am. But I was watching this movie, I'm like, I know I'm bad at this stuff, but that came out of nowhere. I'm like, what? Wait, huh? Why? So I actually called my mom. I'm like, Mom, have you seen Girl with the Dragon Tattoo? And she's like, yeah. Read the book too. I'm like, what's with the sex scene? I don't get it. And I think she had an explanation based on the book, but that was years ago, and I don't remember what it is anymore.
You had to call your mom to get sex explained to you.
I'm like, Mom, can you explain sex to me? And she's like, Andrew, you're in your mid-30s. You need to stop this, sir, because this is embarrassing me. No, Laxter links to a Last Week Tonight from a Nintendo Game Marriage episode. That sounds familiar. I may have seen that, but I'll watch that in off time.
John Oliver.
Yeah, bring that up. I'll watch it and bring it up next week, and I'll tell you what I thought or if I'd seen it. So. To be clear, I don't have a problem with sex in video games or movies. I've just never felt the actual physical act of sex depicted in video games or movies has ever been necessary or interesting.
Yeah.
But I'm also the guy who loves really gory horror movies, and it's, I could see other people saying, person stabbed, person dies. I get it. I don't need to see their entrails spilled on the floor. I'm like, I do. So, I guess a lot of it comes down to what you personally enjoy watching. I like seeing things explode, including people. So, it might just come down to what you personally enjoy watching. If you really enjoy watching sex scenes, then sex scenes are probably going to be a lot more interesting or engaging for you. It's like, hey, we're getting to the sex scene. I love sex scenes. Me, I'm like, all right, someone's getting killed in a movie, or things are exploding, or car chase, or something like that.
Yeah.
And plot, lots of plot happening. Love that plot. So, all right. Any final thoughts before we wrap up the show?
No, that's all I have.
But we ran late so that Hal could see part of the show.
Yeah.
We start at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Al. You were a little late, but luckily we blabber. And someone mentioned, do we ever talk about PC stuff? If there's PC stuff to talk about, the Nielsen survey didn't seem to talk about PC gamers at all.
Yeah, I don't think at all that's what it was aiming for.
And it wasn't. Otherwise, we would have talked about that. But I think NVIDIA's getting sued.
Yeah, NVIDIA's getting sued for false advertising.
Do you know what they were? Some about their
something about they had their graphics card. It was like a 4 gig graphics card, but you couldn't actually use 4 gigs. I think it was like locked at 3 gigs for some stupid reason, and the hardware was there for 4 gigs, but the drivers and everything else, I couldn't actually use all 4 gigs of it without significant frame rate drops and lag and everything, and it was really terrible, and so they got in trouble for that. And then they had some other thing where they pushed out a driver that disabled overclocking of graphics cards, and then they had to apologize and re-enable overclocking for those people who actually wanted to do it. But, yeah, they weren't having a good week.
Matthew says it's 3.5 and 0.5. for memory.
Separate. Yeah.
I wonder if that's any similar to the folks who've complained that Sony, Nintendo, Microsoft advertise their systems having 500 gigs of memory, or in the case of Nintendo, 32, and you really have. In the
Like,
case of Nintendo, maybe you have 27 or something because
yeah.
the operating system actually uses some of that memory.
Well,
So
it's
the
like
stuff you actually have access to is a little bit
well, it's
less
like
than
my
what is
phone.
advertised.
I have 8 gigs of storage on my phone, but the operating system takes up 4 gigs of that. So it's like I can't install 8 gigs
Yeah.
worth of
Now,
stuff on
granted,
there.
they're saying 8
Yeah.
gigs of memory or 8 gigs of storage, which is technically correct, but I think most everyone assumes these numbers mean usable storage, stuff I
Well,
can use.
yeah,
And if half of it is taken up by the
but
operating system, that does, to me, sound a little misleading at best, or at least, or
yeah.
one of the two.
Yeah, I think there should be some kind of requirement or agreement that if they're going to advertise storage space, it needs to be usable storage space. When you turn this thing on, this is how much storage space you're going to have to install apps and take pictures and videos on. It's like don't include any storage space taken up by the operating system or existing apps. I think that should be the way it should be.
Yeah. Now,
So,
I mean, if it's paltry, like I don't know how much of my 500 gigs the PlayStation 3 is taking up. I would imagine it's somewhat less than 12 because it's
yeah.
a 12 gig system with a 500 gig hard drive plugged into it.
Yeah,
So,
see,
I
when
mean,
you get into that space, I don't really
yeah,
care
it's
too
like I
much.
only have 488 gigs, 488 gigs. It's like, really, dude, chill. But I mean, if
Yeah.
yours is advertised at 8 and you only have 4, that I think is pretty significant. So maybe we need to agree on some type of percentage. If you don't have, you can round up if it's at least such and such
Yeah,
percentage. But
if you're using less than 20% of the total storage, then you can round up.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's to me would be reasonable. But, well, yeah, Matthew says it's a bit unfair since OS size isn't a fixed size, but you know, I think Apple has a pretty good handle on how much memory their operating system is going to take up on their iPhones, and they should take that into account. They know that their operating system is going to take up 4 gigs of space, so
Right.
they should take that into account when they advertise storage space.
Right. Now, a particular image that they're using to image all their phones with is going to be the same size. And
Yeah.
as they update and do new versions of the operating system, they'll probably have to update the packaging, which is probably a pain in the arse
Yeah.
if it's changing significantly. I mean, I can't imagine, a lot of OS updates are significantly eating up
Well, my
space.
phone is trying to get me to upgrade from I think it's like OS 5 or something to whatever, like OS 7 or something, or OS 8, and it's like it's trying to get me to upgrade, but I would have to basically uninstall every single app, delete every single picture I have on this thing in order for it to have enough storage space to install this new OS on, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing that.
Good,
So,
goodness. All right, well, touched on PC a little bit and then moved straight into mobile, but okay, maybe we'll have more PC centric topics for
if
next
I
week.
play a PC game next week, I'll let you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can tell you I pretty much all I'll be playing this week is Kirby while I finish that up.
Well, I did play a little bit of Aquaria on PC today, and I played like 10 minutes of it. But
Yeah.
yeah, Aquaria
By
is one of those games I return to from time to time because I really enjoyed it. It's a nice, fun game to play. And so,
Yeah, by the way, folks, if you have topics that you want us to cover on the show, feel free to email us. I'll give you our email address in a moment here. Uh, tweet it at us, put it on our Facebook pages. That's fine. We're
yeah.
more than
And
happy
we
to
watch the
discuss the
shout
topics
box
here.
on Game
Yeah.
Politics too. So, if you see something that's not being reported on Game Politics, we'll probably catch it if you post a link there. So,
Yeah, there's also a submit news button towards the top that you can use. So yeah. All right, that is the end of our show. So thank goodness, because I'm starving to death. I really should have eaten before but then again, I needed nap. Nap was important. So anyway, let's plug our stuff and get out of here. Andrew Eisen here. Hello. Eisen is how you spell the last name. So plug Andrew Eisen into YouTube. You'll find my YouTube channel where I do silly videos. Although you're probably only going to see Super Podcast Action Committee for right now and for the next week because I'm busy doing some freelance work. Twitter at Andrew Eisen. Facebook is Andrew Eisen YouTube. So that's where you can find me online. Zachary, plug away.
All right, you can follow me on Twitter at EZKnight, and you can also check out my game development work on Twitter at DK_gaming, and that's DivineKnightGaming.com. I'm currently working on a couple of fun little games and getting ready for a local gaming conference / exhibit thing called Super BitCon. So if you're in the Oklahoma area or surrounding area, yeah, you can check that out. It's going to be a great event. And also, if you are interested in the Oklahoma game development scene, check out OK Game Devs on Twitter, and it's okgamedev.com. So there you go.
All right. You've been listening to Super Podcast Action Committee, episode 133. We stream live every Saturday night at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on GamePolitics.com, where you can participate in a live chat. I also make an audio version of the show, so if you just want to listen to it in the car on the way to work, those are usually available on Monday. In the meantime, if you want to send us email, you can do so at superpackpodcast@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at superpackpodcast. Subscribe and rate us on iTunes and like us on Facebook. So be excellent to one another, and we will see you next week. Have a good one.
All right.
Bye.
See ya.